Hello and welcome to the In the Hoop Club World Tour. I'm Sue O'Vera, your tour guide, and this month we're headed to Scotland where we're going to create this sweet little pleated kilt clutch. We're going to learn how to attach pleats all in the hoop. We're going to add this sweet little crystal buckle and finish it off with a zipper, all done, you got it, inside the hoop. Look at this beautiful China silk lining, and it's all beautifully done and finished, and there's no raw edges. So pack your bags and let's get stitching. Let's talk about the materials you need for this project. First thing is you need some cutaway that's sheer, and you need enough for 2 hooping. So I have a large piece here that I'm going to cut down the center before I begin my project. The next is you need your lining. We're using a really pretty blue silk here. The total piece, you're going to ultimately need 2 pieces that are 6 inches wide by 8 inches tall. The next will be your front top and front top lining. And you need 2 of them that are 2 inches tall by 8 inches wide. We're just using a black cotton for that. The front is a big one. The plaid we have here is a real beautiful Stuart plaid, and it is 6 inches tall by 16 inches wide, but you can use any material, of course. The back is also that plaid, and it is 6 inches tall and 8 inches wide. So if you have a directional print, make sure that it's going to be, the height would be 6 and the width would be 8. Then your batting, we're going to be using that Quilter's Dream Fusion batting again. It's a really nice thin weight for in the hoop projects. It's got fusible on one side and then your batting on the other. And then we're going to need a pretty satin ribbon. It needs to be at least a 1/2 inch wide, but we went ahead and used 7/8 inch because it just really stands out really nice. But you need 5 inches total of that. And then we have this beautiful little crystal buckle. The buckle is 3/4 of an inch wide. And then the last thing is your zipper. You need a zipper that is about 11 inches long. Okay, let's go get our machine ready. Here are our materials. We've got our trusty best press that we're just going to shake up, press all over the materials, and then we're going to give them a good pressing. When you're working with a thin silk material like the blue here, if you do use this for your lining, you're going to want to go back and give it a little extra stiffening with that best press. So let's go ahead and press that. We're going to set up our goddess sheet so that when we fuse our batting piece to our back, we don't get any fusible web onto our pressing surface. So go ahead and set the fusible portion of the batting to the wrong side of what will be the back. Close the door of the goddess sheet and press. Alright, you're going to need to make sure you have a bobbin wound with the matching thread, which would be your construction thread for the entire project, which is black embroidery thread. So make sure you wind that. Then you're going to need to insert a new 7511 embroidery needle into your machine. And then lastly, let's just go ahead, and we have a large piece of stabilizer here, but all you need right now is to hoop 1 hooping's worth. So we're using a 5x7 hoop, so we've got half of our stabilizer in there. The first design that you're going to need to stitch is the front. There are 2 designs to create this. So get the front one and then insert the design in your machine, insert the hoop into the machine, and so stitch number 1, which is going to be a positioning stitch for the front and the front pleated area. Once you're done with that, come right back here. I'll see you then. Alright, very good. You've stitched the first stitch sequence, which has got lots of positioning that we're going to use throughout the project. The very first thing we're going to do with our fabric, go ahead and get your front, and it's 16 inches long, and we are going to align the top long edge, that top 16 long edge, along with the top of the clutch right here. This is now going to be referred to as the clutch, and just leave about a 1/2 inch over just in case things weren't cut perfectly square. But the top line, we definitely want to make sure that this is square. So even if you need to go over like 1/4 of an inch, just make sure it's lined up. and then tape it in place. Okay, very good. So this is the top of the clutch, and this right here will be what would be the right side of the clutch. Now insert the hoop in the machine and sew stitch number 2, which is the first pleat placement stitch. When you're done with that, come back here, and I'll see you then. Okay, really good. You've got that first stitch that's going to secure the first pleat. And now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the tape here that's above the pleat, and we're going to, never hurts to press to set your seam. We are using a little tiny mini, the Clover mini iron, but now we're going to fold this straight down, and we're going to give that a good press. There's no need to tape, but what you're going to do now is insert this into the machine, and you're going to sew what would be stitch number 3, and this is the first pleat secure stitch. When you're done with that, come right back here. Okay, nice job. We have sewn the pleat position stitch, the secure stitch. That's the first one. And now we're going to take our front fabric and go all the way toward the top. And remember, we want to keep this lined up with the positioning stitch. And then maybe just use a little piece of tape to secure that. Next, we're going to sew what would be stitch number 4. We're going to sew the second pleat position stitch. Then we're going to come back to the pressing board, and we're going to fold it, we're going to press it, and we're going to fold it down and press it again. So let's do all of that, and I'll see you right back here. Great. Okay, so here is the second pleat position stitch, and now let's go ahead and remove the tape again. And we're going to fold, we can go ahead and press that to set the seam with our mini iron, and now we're going to fold it downward. We're going to press it. This is our second pleat. We're going to insert this back into the machine and sew stitch number 5, which is going to be the second pleat secure stitch. Once you're finished with that, I'll see you right back here. Okay, very good. So we have our second pleat stitched. Let's go ahead and press it to relax the seam. Now we're going to fold this up once again. And there's only 3 pleats, so the last pleat positioning stitch will also include a place for the ribbon. So insert the hoop into the machine, sew stitch number 6, which is the third pleat secure stitch, and also the ribbon stitch. It's going to go like this and then this. When you come back here, we'll place our ribbon and finish our third and final pleat. See you then. Very good. You have stitched your third pleat positioning stitch, and along with a little tiny center positioning stitch for the ribbon right here. Let's lay this flat, give that stitch a press, and now let's go ahead and position our ribbon. And you're going to just need a couple of pieces of tape to make sure that ribbon doesn't move as it's being stitched. And we're going to just center the width or the height of the ribbon with that positioning stitch. Let's secure it down with some tape. And next we're going to fold the rest of the front down toward that ribbon. And if you want to use a piece of tape to secure that, it's not a bad idea. And next is going to be stitching the third pleat secure stitch, which is number 7. When you're finished with that, come back here, we'll press it, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, let's go ahead and remove that tape and press the seam and open it and give it a good press again. The next stitch sequence is going to be the upper right side and then top and then left side secure stitch. We are going to want to put a little tape at least up here along that top. And I don't know, this looks like it's pretty secure right here. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to stitch from here, up, over, and down. Once you're finished with that, we're going to go ahead and add our buckle to this, and then after that, we're going to secure the lower portion of this. So let's do the upper, come back here, and go to the next step together. Okay, we've got our secure stitch there along the top, and now let's go ahead and remove this tape that's holding down that ribbon, and it's the time to add our pretty little crystal buckle. I'm just going to feed over the center bar and then down the center after the center bar. And just adjust the ribbon inside as you'd like. You know, if you want a little extra pleating or however you like it. I'm going to go ahead and just slide it on. And you want to slide it up rather close to that third pleat. You can always reposition it later, but slide it up there so it's maybe, I don't know, maybe next to the second pleat. So there's the third, here's the second. And that way it's out of the way of our needle position. Now I'm going to pull this a little bit extra tight because once this seam releases from the hoop, it's going to lose some of its tautness. So there's one piece of tape, and you notice I'm placing that tape right over top of that initial secure stitch because we're going to be sewing over that again. And then I'm going to place another piece of tape right here just to hold it down here, here, and then back up because we've already stitched over here. So keep an eye on that presser foot that it doesn't hit the buckle, and keep your finger over that stop and start button just to make sure everything's good. When you're done with that, I'll see you right back here. Okay, really great. You've got all your pleats. You got 1, 2, 3, and you got your buckle in there. Now it's time to cut this down to the right size. Let's remove the tape. And let's remove the material from the hoop. And we're going to cut a 1/4 inch seam allowance across this top side. So you can use whatever size ruler you have. I have a little ruler here that actually has a 1/4 inch built into it. Okay, now let's give this a good press. All right, you've got your front finished. We can just cut away the leftover stabilizer because we're going to need that for the next hooping. And then put this front piece aside, and we'll be attaching it to the back in just a few minutes. Okay, I'll see you right back here ready to hoop. The next part of this fun process is we're going to create we're calling it the back, but actually it's just the construction of the entire project. We are going to be attaching our zipper in just a moment. So the first thing is hoop the leftover stabilizer, or a piece that's large enough to fit into your hoop all the way around. Insert that into the machine, and this time we're going to choose the second design, which is the zipper. We're going to sew stitch number 1, and that's going to be the zipper position stitch. Once you're finished with that, come here and we'll attach the zipper. All right, see you then. Okay, very good. This is your zipper position stitch, and now we're going to place the zipper. Make sure that zipper pull is toward the top of the hoop. This is the left side of the hoop, the part that goes into the machine, but this is the top of the hoop. So however your machine is set up, make sure the zipper pull is going toward the top of the stitching where the door is closed, whereas this one is open. Okay, so let's place that down, and let's secure our zipper with a couple pieces of tape. We're just putting this in the center of that positioning stitch. And then our next stitch sequence is going to be number 2, which is the zipper secure stitch, and it's going to stitch right inside next to the zipper teeth. Once you're finished with that, we're going to attach our front. So exciting! See you then. Okay, now that lining, we had originally shown a larger piece because it's easier to manage when it's larger, but now's the time when we need to go ahead and cut it down so that we have 2 6x8 pieces of lining. All right, place one, just hold one here and then just put the other to the side. So here's what we're gonna do. You've got your zipper that's already installed, and here is your front. I want you to pay attention to the left side of the front and the right side. So when it's all finished, it's going to look like this. So what you're gonna do is you're going to position the front right sides together with the zipper centered within that zipper positioning stitch. So this line centered within this line. So let's go ahead and do that. The 1/4 inch seam allowance that we cut earlier on our front is going to lay against that positioning stitch or against the zipper tape, whatever lays better and flatter. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we're going to place lots of clear tape to hold this baby in place. Okay, Next, we're going to turn our hoop to the wrong side. Place it flat. We're going to do the same thing with our lining. If there is a right or a wrong side, choose it now. You want to have right sides with the back of the stabilizer, and we're going to center the height of this with the width of that positioning stitch. Place the edge along the basting stitch from the zipper, and let's secure it with lots of tape. Next, we're going to flip this back over to the front, of course. Now let's go ahead and insert this back into the machine, and we're going to sew the construction stitch of what would be the bottom of the zipper. And this is number 3. It's the lower front of the zipper. And just make sure everything keeps laying flat and doesn't get caught up in the hoop. When you're finished with that, we're going to bring it right back to this cutting surface. I'll see you then. Let's go ahead and remove all the tape that we just placed on there. Okay, now that your tape is removed the best you can, let's go ahead and press the seam flat. And then we're going to press it open. In fact, we could absolutely remove that tape at this point. Flip it to the back hoop, the wrong side of the hoop, and let's do the same thing. Let's place that down and give it a good press. Okay, now what you're gonna do is we're gonna get a flower head pin. The reason I like the flower head is it's flat and it's large, so I can see where it's going and what it's doing. And we're gonna just make sure that the lining of the front and the front here are pulled all the way to what would be the bottom of the clutch as best as can be, and then we're going to pin through all those layers. Okay, and this is just going to help secure the front down while we're going to the next step. So let's go ahead and grab our 2 pieces that are the front top and the front top lining. We're going to do the same thing we did when we were attaching the front bottom to the zipper. So we're going to place the front top piece, line it up with that initial basting stitch, and then we're going to tape to secure it, and then we're going to do the same for the back. So now let's turn it to the wrong side of the hoop, and same thing, we're going to place the long raw edge against that original basting stitch. Okay, and now we're going to insert the hoop into the machine and sew stitch number 4, which is the front upper lining and the zipper construction stitch. Again, make sure it's all flat and don't get anything caught in the hoop. Once you're finished with that, let's remove the hoop from the machine, remove all the tape, and come right back here for the next step. See you then. Okay, let's go ahead and check out what we've done. We've already removed the tape on the top and the back side. We're going to just give this a little press flat and open. Repeat on the back side. Okay, and what we're going to do is while we have this back facing up, let's go ahead and secure this with some tape for our final, or for our basting stitch that we're going to do in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and remove that flower head pin. We're done with it. Let's pull this back nice and tight down and secure it to the stabilizer. Okay, so the next stitch sequence is going to be a basting stitch. That's number 5, all the way around to hold the outside pieces, the front and the back, everything. When you're finished with that, come right back here and we're going to attach our back of our clutch. See you then. Okay, let's just make sure when we're taping this down, you definitely want to open that zipper halfway. Open that zipper halfway. and make sure everything's taped. Insert the hoop into the machine, and we're going to be sewing the basting stitch all the way around. When you do that, make sure you pull down the front and also make sure that the back is nice and flat, the back lining. Okay, well, I will see you right back here when you're finished. Very good, everything is basted down. Now when I was pulling this, I might not have gotten that front secure stitch all the way pushed over, but that's okay, we can always rip it out at the end, but we'll just wait and see. The next thing we're going to do is attach our back, and you've got batting on one side and then your back fabric on the other. We're going to place this centered within that just most recent basting stitch, center it within that, and we're going to be placing right sides together and stitching just along the bottom, which is the bottom of the pouch construction stitch. When you're finished with that, come right back here and we'll prepare for the very last stitch. See you then. Okay, we are ready for the final construction stitch. We're going to turn our hoop to the wrong side, make sure everything's laying flat. And if you want to remove this tape at this point, you can, but honestly, we're going to be cutting most of it away, so you should be okay. Take that back piece and place it centered over that basting stitch and secure it really, really good. Insert the hoop in the machine, and you're going to sew stitch number 7, which is the final construction stitch. It's going to be sewing right next to that stitch we just created, all the way up, over, down, over, and back up to the other end of the stitch number 6. So go ahead and do that, and then come right back here, and we're going to finish this baby up. Alright, let's get this guy out of the hoop, and now we're going to make sure everything got stitched. Yep, we're all good. You can remove the tape if you want, but like I said, most of it is going to get cut off. I recommend that you cut your 4 miter corners first, and then 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around except for the bottom part here, and basically leave as much seam allowance as you can. In this case, it's about 1/4 inch anyways, but I would leave the 1/2 inch on the top part. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now give this a press on the front and the back, remove any tape that you want to do, and then we're going to turn this right sides out. Okay, so we're just turning this out just the one time to reveal the lining on the front and the back. You can use your point turner as you see fit, but be careful because that lining is real thin material. You don't want to poke a hole through it. We'll do our final turning in just a moment. So now we need to hand stitch this closed, and we're going to, this is why it's nice to have that extra piece of material there for hand stitching. And it's okay to have a little bulk there, but if you wanted to do a little grading, you know, cut one maybe 1/4 inch, one 3/8 inch, and leave the final lining 1/2 inch, it's entirely up to you. I kind of like having a little extra thickness down there. Let's use our Wonder Clips to hold this in place. Okay, and thread a needle with 4 threads. That means you have 2 threads going through the eye of the needle, and when they come back together, they make 4 threads. So let's go ahead and hand stitch this closed. Okay, now we've got the hand stitching done. Now we've got to turn this right sides out for our final time. And the problem is we've got that stabilizer in the way. So no big deal, you can either use a seam ripper to remove that. You just don't want to cut your materials. So sometimes a pair of scissors, little tiny ones that are real sharp, is easier. It's really up to you, but your goal is to remove all of that stabilizer right here out of that opening. So go ahead and do that. Okay, good enough. Now we're going to turn this right sides out to expose the complete outside. Use your point turner, get those corners nice and crisp now, but remember that lining inside. So So let's give this one good last press and you are done. Okay, we've given it a press. Everything looks great. It has a beautiful silk blue lining, which just is always nice to have a lighter color lining in the inside. And now we can fill it up with our cosmetics and take this out, maybe add our driver's license, but the man's gonna pay, so we don't need our money. And we're gonna have a lovely Scottish evening on the town. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed this, and please be sure to post pictures of what yours looks like, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.